What is up, Breaking Bad fans? Kino here, and we're back with another Breaking Bad log. Today we're looking at the 6th episode of Season 2, Peekaboo. Now, we open the episode with Jesse waiting at a stop sign. Skinny Pete arrives and gives him the address of Spooge, the junkie who robbed him last episode. Jesse plans to kill him to send a message, but is clearly nervous. He smokes meth in his car in order to work up the courage, which we know from The Sopranos is a bad idea to do before a job.
Let's do it before the crank wears off.
He then goes to the front door, preparing something intimidating in order to scare the guy. However, he's nearly caught by the mail lady in a very humorous scene that reinforces that he's not meant for this kind of thing. He eventually does break in, but finds that no one is home. He decides to wait for them in ambush, but discovers that there's a little kid in the house. The kid is filthy, living in squalor, and is completely unconcerned with Jesse's presence there. Meanwhile, Walt returns to his job as a high school chemistry teacher. He tells his class the story of Howard Tracy Hall, the man who invented the synthetic diamond. Hall worked for General Electric, who made billions off of his idea and gave him a pittance as a reward. This story is obviously how Walt feels about his own life and gray matter, but we'll talk about that later. After class, Walt is visited by Assistant Principal Carmen. She says that it's great to have Walt back and that he can talk to her if there's ever a problem. He wonders what she means, but after school, Walt finds one of his missing posters on his car, making fun of him. The story of his fugue state has clearly gotten around and embarrasses Junior. While he's out of the house, Gretchen calls and leaves a message. Despite Walter telling her not to contact them, Skylar calls her back to thank her for paying for Walt's treatment. Gretchen obviously has no idea what she's talking about, but suggests that they meet. Meanwhile, Jesse makes food for the boy who's hungry and neglected. He also plays Peekaboo with him, bonding with the child. As we've established in Season 1, Jesse has a soft spot when it comes to kids. However, at that moment, the junkies return home. Jesse hides the boy in his room, and then pistol whips Spooge and holds him at gunpoint. Arriving back from work, Walt sees Gretchen's car in the driveway. She talks with Walt's family, who again thank her for the treatment. She doesn't reveal the truth, but excuses herself when Walt arrives. In the driveway, Walt tells her that they need to talk in private. Back at the junkie's house, Jesse demands his money and his drugs. They don't have it, however, as they smoked some and lost the rest. However, Spooge offers to pay Jesse from an ATM that they stole from a store. They say that it was a victimless crime, but we actually see that they killed a guy while stealing the ATM and left a baggie of their meth at the scene. The guy they killed, by the way, is the same guy who got the RV stuck from the ditch in the 2nd episode of the show. Meanwhile, Walt and Gretchen meet at a restaurant to talk. He apologizes to her for involving her in his lie, but he refuses to tell her why he did it. They then get into a heated argument. Walt says that they cut him out and made millions off of his research. She, however, says that he left her and Elliot out of nowhere, and is shocked at how he has twisted things in his head. Let me take a step back here and explain what the backstory is, because we only ever get it in fragments and it can be hard to piece together. Fair warning, this will contain some details from future episodes. Also, all of this has been confirmed by Vince Gilligan himself as the absolute truth. Walt and Gretchen used to date in the early days of Grey Matter. However, Gretchen came from a very wealthy family, which made Walt feel inferior. As we know, Walt's pride is everything to him, and he makes stupid decisions if it helps him with his ego. After staying at her house on 4th of July and seeing her family's wealth, he very abruptly broke up with her and left Grey Matter. He accepted a buyout for $7,000 and later settled down with Skylar, who he met at a cafe. Though it's never stated, I feel like one of the reasons he chose her is because she was just a hostess and much younger than him, so she would be unlikely to make him feel inferior again. He had plans to do big things, but ended up settling for a meager teaching job. Over the years, he became meek and unambitious, but secretly harbored resentment over how his life turned out. The whole idea that they betrayed him or cut him out is entirely in his own head, a result of years of feeling bitter and disappointed in himself. It also entirely goes against what we see of Gretchen and Elliot, and how much they care for Walt despite everything that happened. Later at home, Skylar tells Walt that Gretchen called. Walt expects that she told the truth. However, instead she simply said that they couldn't pay for the treatment anymore. For once, Walt gives a convincing lie, and says that Gretchen and Elliot are now broke. Skylar accepts this, and Walt says that they will somehow get through this. Back at the crack house, Spooge tries unsuccessfully to open the ATM machine. When Jesse is distracted with the kid, the woman hits him over the head. With the tables turned, they take his gun, and he ends up passing out. When he wakes, Spooge is still trying to break into the ATM, this time from underneath it. He calls his woman a skank, which enrages her. She ends up pushing the ATM over, crushing his head and killing him. She then passes out from the drugs that she's on. Jesse gets ready to leave and cleans up his fingerprints. Right at that moment, however, the ATM opens and he grabs the money. He's about to leave, but remembers the kid. He calls 911, then takes the kid out onto the porch so he doesn't have to see the body. He leaves him there and tells him to have a good life, now that his mother's going to be taken away to jail. He then leaves before the cops can arrive. This is one of the best episodes of the series, being a masterful display of character development for both Walt and Jesse. I love the opening scene with Jesse playing with the bug, very much like a child. The scene shows us that Jesse is innocent at heart, which, just like the bug, ends up being squished by the events of the series. It's also why he's so protective of children, because he can relate to them. He reminds me a lot of Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye. Aaron Paul ended up getting his first Emmy nomination from this episode, and it's well deserved in my opinion. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next Breaking Bad log coming soon. I ain't no Kino. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Obs Racing Media, Daz J. Kid, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarlin, Don Lucania, Celery Man, and Jenna Marie Johnson.